So today I'm going to talk to you about the Animal Welfare Bill, which has just passed its second reading. But before we get going, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button and comment below once you've watched the video. Let me know what you think. The Animal Welfare Bill is the most tokenistic piece of legislation I think we've had for some time. And it has got people thinking, this is lovely, this is so nice, we're so kind. We love our animals in Britain so much that we're going to ban live exports. But first things first, live exports coming into this country, so live imports can't be stopped. So what they're trying to do is to say that we won't be sending any live animals for slaughter to another country, but every other country in the world can live export here. But it gets even more interesting than this, because this bill only applies to English farmers, whereas the devolved nations can set their own decisions about what should happen with this. So at the moment, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will be able to live export their animals to the continent or wherever else they want to go, Middle East or whatever, but English farmers cannot. And at the moment, the devolved nations have a much better agricultural system than we have as English farmers. So our UK market is already unfair for English farmers. Now it's about, if this act goes through, it's about to get even more unfair. But the biggest, most unfair thing is that countries like Australia, who do live export, in a big way, and they have done, they are talking about getting rid of or bringing in legislation to stop live exports because they put them on ships and it's a pretty ghastly affair. But it doesn't mean to say that that's going to happen. But the fact that we are going ahead and making it even more difficult for our farmers is, well, it just beggars belief, because the food system here is under such an attack. And this animal welfare bill and banning of live exports is pretty much the same as the government in the 1980s legislating to make the coal mines safe, as Thatcher was destroying the coal mines. That's pretty much what it is. And it is an emotive topic. Nobody wants to talk about animals being slaughtered. It makes people upset. But ultimately, it's not a good thing to be giving yourself a disadvantage and then allowing every other country in the world to continue to live export to you with food which has been grown and reared to standards that are much lower than we're used to, using chemicals that we've banned, using methods that we've banned. What is the point of that? It's as though all of these laws to up standards, to bring standards up, are actually being used to destroy our ability to make food. Because since Brexit, and it does, this is definitely Brexit tokenism. It's to show that there is a Brexit advantage. We've banned live exports, but Europe hasn't. Ultimately, the imports coming in from countries like Brazil, the imports from Brazil have gone up by 67% since Brexit, 67%. And the UK government has relinquished, it's set Brazil free from extra checks to use the Brexit freedoms to do that. So there's more risk associated with this because they do rear animals in a different way, and there are higher risks of salmonella and BSE, which they have had recently in Brazil. So those foods are coming in here because ultimately food standards and animal welfare standards, food standards are about making sure that food is safe. The whole emotional topic of whether an animal has been well treated or not also is about the quality of the food, because if the animal is crippled, the food is not going to be of good standard. It's as simple as that. But the fact that we don't like animal cruelty is another emotional fact, and it is another emotional reason why British people are good at farming, because we actually love our animals. We are pro animal welfare. But what we're doing is we're getting rid of our amazing farming system pretty much to rely on imported food which is coming from the rest of the world. Not only that, we're doing this at the worst global time. Even Rishi Sunak admitted in the Liaison Committee today, the biggest threat to us is global events.
Minister, in a single word, what would you say is the greatest strategic challenge facing the United Kingdom?
I think the increasingly complex and hostile international environment is something that over the past year has occupied more of my time than one might have anticipated. And you can see that not just in the situation in Russia and Ukraine, but we've talked in the past in this forum about the risk posed by China's activities, Iran, and now most recently in the Middle East. In particular, the situation in the Red Sea is deeply concerning. As a maritime nation, we've always believed very strongly in free and open shipping lanes. That is now being threatened by malign actors, and it's just further evidence that the international picture is both complex and more challenging. And previously, we, I think, may have taken many of these things for granted. It's clear that we can't, and we need to invest in our defence capability and strengthen our alliances to keep everyone at home safe and protect our economy too.
What's going on in the world right now is a direct threat to Britain, and we are really in a weak position because our food system is so weak, and we've cut off our food supplies from Europe, and we're about to make that even worse because the EU import checks are going to come in. It looks like they are going to actually finally come in January, which is going to make food more expensive. Then add on the fact that the Panama Canal is in crisis because of a drought, thanks to climate change, which will take probably months, possibly years to sort out. And then there's also now even more problems with the Suez Canal because of the Houthi attacks. And we are going out and saying, we don't want any food security here in Britain. We're going to reduce our food production in Britain. We're going to cut off ties with Europe, who we've pooled our food security with for the last 40 odd years. And we're going to rely on the rest of the world to feed us, particularly from the Pacific region, as the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal is going into chaos, which means that the only way those imports are going to be able to get here is by plane. And flying over enough food for 65 million people on an island is quite a task.
The Panama Canal is grappling with its worst ever drought. The drought has dried up the water, leading to unprecedented low water levels in this crucial shipping route that spreads over 80 kilometers. All of this has resulted in dozens of massive container ships being stuck, causing congestion and delays. The situation is expected to have a ripple effect on the global supply chain that can impact Christmas celebrations, not only in the UK, but also in Europe. As the situation worsens, ships are being forced to take the lengthy detours, some lasting up to even a month through the Suez Canal in Egypt. Moreover, the limited water supply to maintain the freshwater lock system has further restricted the number of ships that can cross daily. The number has dropped from 38 ships before the delays to only 24 since the 7th of November. Looking ahead, this number is expected to decline further to 18 ships a day starting February.
The Houthi militant group on ships in the Red Sea are forcing freight firms to reroute in order to avoid the Suez Canal. This video was released by the Houthis on November 20th, showing armed men dropping from a helicopter and seizing a cargo ship in the southern Red Sea. The latest attacks came Monday, when the Houthis said drones were launched against 2 cargo vessels in the area. The Iran-aligned Houthis said the attacks are a response to Israel's assault on the Gaza Strip, which Israel launched after the October 7 rampage by Hamas militants. The situation has prompted the United States and its allies to discuss a task force that would protect Red Sea routes, something Iran has warned would be a mistake. In Israel on Monday, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said no group or state should test America's resolve.
In the Red Sea, we're leading a multinational maritime task force to uphold the bedrock principle of freedom of navigation. Iran's support for Houthi attacks on commercial vessels must stop.
The attacks have showed the ability of Middle Eastern paramilitary forces backed by Iran to upset global trade. Several major freight companies have begun sailing around Africa due to the danger, and there are signs the crisis is broadening to include energy shipments. The rerouting adds costs and delays, which industry analysts expect to be compounded over the coming weeks. While freight rates will likely increase on the longer voyages, the head of global freight platform Freighto said it is unlikely that rates will spike to the level seen during the pandemic. About 15% of world traffic transits via the Suez Canal,